Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Live with Mel. This episode is brought to you by Yellow Cab Company of DC. If you're looking to avoid rideshare prices, then check out the Yellow Cab Company of DC when you are in the nation's capital. The Western world, now more than ever, believes that Russia is planning to invade Ukraine. For the past several months, the Western world has been trying to deal with the tension between Russia and Ukraine diplomatically. We saw many members of NATO and many world leaders actually go to speak to both Russia and Ukraine in order to lessen the tension that's going around in the area. Now, many Western worlds, United States, Canada as well, have pulled citizens out of Ukraine because they believe that the attack is coming and it could be any day. Now, again, there are still some people who believe that Russia may not attack, but with the information, with the intelligent information that we are now getting, it looks as though it is inevitable. Now, diplomatic efforts are still ongoing. However, recently, this week, Ukraine has stated that it is still trying to join NATO. Now, Ukraine trying to join NATO is one of the things that Putin does not want to happen. But Ukraine has stated their intent to join the alliance. Russia's main demand from the Western world and from NATO is that the NATO makes a pledge or a promise that they will never allow Ukraine to join. Now, one of the biggest reasons why Russia does not want Ukraine to join NATO, again, is because if you attack a member of NATO, all of NATO will come to your defense. And as we all know, Russia still views Ukraine as a member of Russia, even though Ukraine is an independent nation. But Ukraine is very adamant about joining NATO. Now, the Western world is taking this invasion serious because, again, Putin did invade Ukraine in 2014. And the United States and the rest of the Western world have been receiving intelligence information since last year, since 2021, that Putin has his eyes on Ukraine and wants to invade. Now, intelligent information has been coming out for a couple weeks about the false flag narrative. And essentially, what the intelligence is stating, or what the Western world is seeing, especially the United States, is that Russia is planning to create a type of propaganda video showing that Ukraine did invade Russia in order for Russia to come in and attack. Now, one of the big things that the Western world is now worried about is the movement of troops and the type of troops that are coming by Ukraine. Russia now has Ukraine, has soldiers, has their military surrounding Ukraine on three sides. And while they were wary before, many people believe that it is imminent, that war is coming. And some intelligence agencies have said an attack could even come before the end of the Winter Olympics, which essentially is going to happen at the end of this month, around February 20th. Now, again, there's a lot of information coming out, and there's a lot of different movements of troops around Ukraine. And the troop formation has changed as well, with about 1,000 battalions in Belarus now it looks like they're preparing to attack. And over the weekend, over the past couple of days, satellite images have seen that more facilities, more cots, more housing for soldiers has arrived in that Belarus area. So again, because of this movement, because of what Russia's doing, because of the new satellite images, many people believe that this false flag operation could be occurring any day now. Now, while many people are wary about this, and even the stock market is being affected by this, diplomatic efforts are still ongoing. The Western world is still trying to essentially deal with the situation before it breaks out into an invasion or into a war. Now, the Western world is coming in the defense of Ukraine. And we've seen that the Western world, Europe, the United States, Canada, has been sending Ukraine aid. Spoken about it before, spoke about it last week with the arrival of financial aid, with the arrival of soldiers, not necessarily in Ukraine, but in surrounding Eastern European countries from the United States and other countries, and NATO sending in more troops, and the arrival of guns, bombs, and other lethal aid. At the moment, the world is preparing for war. We've seen across the globe people talking that this could be the spark of World War III. Now, again, essentially, it looks as though we're heading back towards that Cold War era, and hopefully diplomatic before that. However, many people are, and they believe that this false flag narrative could happen any day now. Now, not only is the president taking heed and trying to deal with this diplomatically, it looks as though Congress is trying to do that as well. Now, we've heard several people from Congress come out, but Senator Lindsey Graham did come out and stated that more needs to be done, and of course through Congress as well. Now, Lindsey Graham stated, "I don't want to ring alarm bells as much as take action. They're telling us that the invasion is imminent, but they're not telling Putin with clarity what happens if you invade. He should be punished now." So again, Senator Lindsey Graham is coming out and essentially stating that Putin needs to be punished now. He also stated, "So the problem has been secondary sanctions. It's not just enough to sanction a Russian bank. You have to sanction anyone that does business with the bank." So again, Lindsey Graham is urging that we do take more diplomatic measures and that we put sanctions on Russia, on Russian banks, and anyone doing business with the Russian banks. And again, Lindsey Graham does believe that that is enough to essentially deal with and stop Putin from actually invading Ukraine. But again, with the new intelligence information that is coming out, that may not be the case. Now, UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson said the evidence is pretty clear that Russia is planning to invade Ukraine. Now, again, many people are falling back on this false flag narrative, and they believe that that is how it could start. Now, again, the intelligence information that we're getting is that Russia is planning some type of propaganda video, some type of video that will show, it won't be a real video, that will show that Ukraine some way or somehow attacked Russia, thus causing Russia to invade the Eastern European country. Now, not everyone is satisfied with the information about the false flag, and they do not believe that's going to happen, but the majority of the international community does believe that that is Russia's plan. Russia does not want to seem as though they are the aggressor. Russia has been very adamant, saying that they are not planning to invade Ukraine. They have been denying it and denying it. But the intel that the international community has been receiving, the intelligence information that the Western world has been receiving and what the Western world has been monitoring, shows a different story. While what Russia may be coming out and saying one thing, that they're not planning on invading Ukraine, the movement of the military and the movement of soldiers does show that they're planning to attack. Again, Russia has now surrounded Ukraine, has troops on three sides. The movements between the Belarus and Russia border has shown that it's preparing for war. They have built new facilities, new housings for soldiers. The new cots have been coming in, which also some believe means that they're going to be sending in more and more soldiers. Since 2021, Russia has essentially put about 100,000 soldiers on the border between Ukraine and Russia. and they've been camping there. They've been conducting military exercises. They have been there for several months. But this new movement that we are seeing, this new movement of soldiers, the way that they're practicing, the things that are being brought in, shows that we could be closer. We could be closer to the false flag narrative where essentially Russia creates a scenario or creates that propaganda video that shows that Ukraine attacks so they can attack, or Russia just goes in and attacks. Now, again, there are several reasons. Many people want to deal with this diplomatically. As we saw from Lindsey Graham wants to put more sanctions in place, and not just sanctions on the banks, but secondary sanctions as well. And people are hoping that if they do start putting these sanctions in place now, that it will stop an all-out conflict. Now, we do know that the Western world, including the United States, including President Biden, has threatened Russia with different types of sanctions and different type of things if they do invade. It looks as though they're also trying at the time to have sanctions put in place for here and now to essentially punish Russia now. But still, the way that Russia is behaving, it looks as though Putin is looking for any excuse to invade Ukraine. So if any type of sanctions, any type of movement happens, Russia can essentially say that they were not the aggressors and that the Western world or Ukraine was the aggressors. Now, something else that Putin has demanded is that he wants the Western world, NATO, the United States to start pulling back the troops that they sent in. Putin does not want the troops in Eastern Europe. Again, the troops aren't necessarily in Ukraine, but they are in other Eastern European countries. Now let's go ahead and go to the comments. So Wade says, well, time for the tinfoil hats and diving under desk again. Joanna says, I feel like this is a distraction. They are instilling fear and I believe nothing will happen. I may be wrong. Wade says, they're playing little kids game known as I'm not touching you. And then Wade says, ooh, sanctions. Putin doesn't give a fuck about our sanctions because they already sanctioned to the hilt. They are sanctioned. I do agree with Wade. I don't think Russia actually cares about the sanctions. However, what I will say on the sanctions, depending on what type of sanctions are put in place, Russia could use that as an excuse to invade or attack or do something. Russia at this moment wants to invade. The intelligence information is there. The troops are there. Everything is there. Russia wants to invade Ukraine again. They did so in 2014. They were unsuccessful for the most part. But Putin wants to continue on and do what he failed to do several years ago. However, Putin wants to be in a position where he can tell the world that he was not the aggressor. He wants Russia to seem as though they're defending themselves. So whatever decision the Western world tries to take in order to deal with Russia, they have to tread very carefully. Because anything that Russia sees as military aggression, he will invade, he will attack. That's all he's waiting for at the moment. With the new movement of troops, with the new battalions coming in, with the new satellite footage that we've seen, we know Russia is ready for war. Russia is ready for an invasion. It's just a matter of time. Now, hopefully, the diplomatic efforts that NATO, European nations, United States, and Canada have been putting out will work. It'll be best for the Ukraine. It'll be best for Europe. It'll be best for the United States if we can deal with the tension diplomatically. However, it does not look as though diplomatic efforts are going anywhere. Countries are still meeting. It seems as though every single day, countries are meeting and discussing what is happening. whether it's with Russia, whether it's with Ukraine, or whether it's amongst each other. Countries are trying to keep this from going to full out war. The Western world does not want a war. However, if something breaks out, the Western world will come to Ukraine's aid. Wade says, Russia's a bitch, LOL. I mean, I feel like that's what a lot of people are saying behind closed doors right now. So again, the new satellite images are showing around 100 Russian battalion tactical groups in fighting formation of 1,000 or so troops on the Ukraine border with Russia and Belarus. There are new tents, there are new cots, there are new housing, and they are all visible on satellites. Russia is planning to have more movement come in. They're planning to have more troops surround the border. They're moving, they're practicing, they're conducting live drills. Russia is preparing for war, and the Western world is preparing for the defense of Ukraine. Now, again, I do think that we will enter into war under the false flag pretense if diplomatic efforts do not work this week or the next coming weeks. But again, we do have to wait and see. I'll keep you guys updated. I know there's new changes to what's happening almost daily. I will keep you guys updated about the conflict that's going on between Russia and Ukraine. I'll keep everyone updated. My name is Molly. I come live every single Monday through Wednesday to bring you guys current events and let you know what's happening across the globe and right here in this great